This is a compilation of my videos on Glamrock Bonnie and Foxy, so a lot of this you may have seen before, but I am going to include some extra bits like what this means for the Ruin DLC, and I'm going to talk about the Blob, because I feel like that would be interesting. I'll include video chapters if you want to skip to certain parts of the video. The widely accepted fact about Glamrock Bonnie is that Monty killed Glamrock Bonnie because he got jealous that Glamrock Bonnie was in the Rockstar band and not him. But it's not exactly that simple. So let's start from the beginning. We know that Vanny or Vanessa has been hacking each of the Glamrocks to try and get them to do Afton's bidding. Now, Glamrock Bonnie was catching onto this before he got hacked. And Glamrock Bonnie one night left his green room and started going around the Pizzaplex. Now also just to clarify, Glamrock Bonnie's room is probably what Monty's room is now, so just wanted to mention that quick. So he started off in Rockstar Row, makes a lot of sense, his green room's there. And he probably didn't really look around that much because there's no need to, he's basically in that area all the time. But then he takes this pathway and goes to the Atrium. And from there went to the East Arcade. Pretty suspicious place, so I understand why I'd want to look there. And the reason he's doing all this is to find evidence against Vanny, and actually find out what's happening to his basically friends. Now it's the next location that Bonnie goes to which got everybody excited, Monty Golf. Now there will always be 4 animatronics in the band, and in this stage it would be Glamrock Freddy, Roxanne Wolf, Glamrock Bonnie this time, and Glamrock Chica, Monty just being one of those side assets. Now what everybody assumed at this point, Monty not being in the band, he wanted to be in the band to get more fame. A jealousy issue, if you want to call it that. Now this is the last known location of what happened to Glamrock Bonnie, so Monty at some point must have destroyed him. But was it actually Monty that did it? Now Monty is always in Monty Golf, so he would have been there, but what influence was he under is what is pretty interesting. Now at this point Vanny would have found out that Bonnie is trying to compile evidence against her and actually find out what's happening, and she doesn't want that. So she got Monty to kill Bonnie. So she hacked Monty and got him to kill Bonnie. Now Monty's extremely aggressive anyway, so he would have been totally fine with doing this even without being hacked. But wouldn't have done it if he wasn't hacked because it's his friend. He wouldn't do that. But what Vanny used Bonnie's endoskeleton and outer shell casing for in the future is pretty interesting. Now at the time Bonnie was around, Glitch Trap existed instead of Burn Trap. So Vanny needed to get William Afton a physical form, and who else better than Bonnie's endoskeleton. And what backs this up even more is that Burn Trap has ears. No other animatronic in the entire Pizzaplex has ears, apart from the Bonnie, but that's in the Blob. Glamrock Bonnie's ears then, I guess. And that could also be why Bonnie didn't get fixed at all, because they didn't know where his endoskeleton was, so how could you fix something that doesn't exist? And just to top it all off, Vanessa or Vanny deleted most of the security footage and only gave us that little bit of information so that she can hide her tracks. Now I will say this is not 100% confirmed, this is my opinion, but all of the data that we've collected on it adds up pretty nicely. Now don't get me wrong, the Monty being jealous theory it makes sense, but this I just feel like has more evidence behind it than that does. But that's what I think happened to Glamrock Bonnie. Now if you have enjoyed, please consider subscribing, because why wouldn't you? And also I might do this for Glamrock Foxy, and that's exactly what you're about to watch. This is the Glamrock Foxy part. I recently made a video going on about what happened to Glamrock Bonnie. Now it's time to see what happened to Glamrock Foxy. Now a lot of stuff I'm going to say here is going to be related to Glamrock Bonnie, because Glamrock Bonnie did exist, that is 100% confirmed. But Glamrock Foxy I didn't think ever existed. And I think Roxy was a cover-up for Foxy. Now Foxy, if he didn't exist, then okay, people will probably question where he is. That's probably why Roxy and Foxy's name are so similar. So Roxy's name covers up Foxy's name, and the syllables are so similar, you basically can't tell the difference. And if we were to take a look at Foxy's original form in FNAF 1, then it's relatively similar to Roxy. So this just means that Roxy was the replacement for Foxy instead of having Foxy. But I think they would have added Foxy at some point. In the atrium, there's an area called Kid's Cove. There's nothing really there, but there is a Foxy statue along with a kind of pirate ocean themed area. Now, I feel like this would have been Foxy's area, but the thing is, there's nothing there. I think this area was going to be planned out to be built. Now, I don't think they had planning permission or anything yet, but they'd literally just finished Roxy Raceway, and they're probably looking into building areas like this in the future. But the area like the pizza place underneath Roxy Raceway actually drained a ton of power from the building, so they needed to close Roxy Raceway immediately to try and sort out the problem. This then would have postponed any progress of building the new area for Foxy, and then just the general progression of Foxy itself. Need more evidence? In one of the duffel bags we found around the Pizzaplex, we get this note. Management report. The bowling alley needs a retheme. While most of the Bonnie art was removed, kids keep asking, where's Bonnie? Do we have an officially approved response? This means that people keep asking about Bonnie, and if Foxy actually existed in the first place, then the same question would have been asked about him. So, why isn't it? That's because he didn't exist. Also, all over the Pizzaplex and even in that little Pirate Cove area in the first place, there is an attraction that has never shown up in the Pizzaplex before. It's called Chica of the Sea, and that was probably the attraction that was going to be built around Foxy, and for Foxy really. And with Roxy Raceway being under construction again, they had to cancel it. Once again, delaying Foxy. But now I want to move on to a different point, which you probably asked. Why didn't Foxy exist in the first place? Now, there have been a lot of Foxys. There have been Normal Foxy, Withered Foxy, Phantom Foxy, Nightmare Foxy, Rockstar Foxy, and Grim Foxy, and there are so many more, and technically you could include Mangle in that, but I'm not going to since it's a separate character. But the point is, there's been a lot of Foxys, and I feel like they wanted to change up, instead of having a Foxy, having a wolf. Also, Scott Cawthon said in one of his interviews with Dorka maybe or something, he said that he had 3 original candidates for one of the FNAF animatronics in the first game. Foxy, a fox, Roxanne, a wolf, and then L-Chips, which is a beaver, which was from a previous game that he had made, but he didn't really want to relate it to that. Crossed out the beaver, crossed out the wolf, and went with the fox. And ever since then, they've basically always been a fox, and Security Breach is the only exception. No idea why, but it just is. That's something the Steelball made. Anyway, that's Glamrock Foxy, all cleared up. Now time for the Blob. Now we know it's some sort of amalgamation of animatronic parts from all over the place, because it's got Circus Baby's head on it, it's got the puppet's head on it, it's got all the FNAF 1 animatronics heads on it, including a FNAF 1 Endo hand. It's all except original Freddy Fazbear, which is probably for some other reason, no idea why. But this thing clearly likes collecting old animatronic parts. In the Burn Trap ending to the game, we see the Blob actually take Afton and take him somewhere. We don't really know where, but there are probably 2 main outcomes that could actually happen with this. One being that Afton actually takes over the Blob and uses the Blob for his bidding and kind of controls it, you could say. Another thing, the Blob could have just killed Afton in the first place. And then that would make the main antagonist in the game the Blob. So what does all this mean for the Ruin DLC? Well, the Blob is either going to be the main antagonist, or is just going to be controlled by Afton. It's one of the two, or some other completely random reason or something like that. But Glamrock Bonnie and Foxy, I feel like can be 2 different reasons. Foxy didn't exist in the first place, like I said previously, and with the entire Pleasplex in complete ruin, also still wouldn't have been built. It's no surprise there. But Glamrock Bonnie, like I said previously as well, is Afton, and if he's been absorbed by the Blob in some way, then he probably doesn't exist anymore. And maybe Bonnie's personality chip is still in his head, and maybe he can fight back against Afton and the Blob. Who actually knows? But there also could be a completely different side of this. This could be set way in the future, where Glamrock Foxy does exist, and maybe Glamrock Bonnie has been rebuilt in some different plays. And both of them help instead of Glamrock Freddy and stuff after they've been decommissioned, because they just don't work anymore. So an entirely new set of Glamrocks have been built, and then the Room DLC actually came out. Like I said, I have no idea, because there's basically nothing to go off on any of these topics really. So it's just guessing really. But then that's the whole point, isn't it? Now if you have enjoyed them, please subscribe, because why not? And maybe go watch a few videos on the screen now, because I do other types of videos as well. And if you want me to look into any questions you might have about the games or anything like that, then just put them in the comments, because I'll most likely do them.